Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTGO Traders. My name is Taryn, and this is the set review for Core Sets 2019, and this is the color for white. So let's jump right into it, guys, starting with Aegis of the Heavens, a 2-mana instant. Target creature gets +1/+7 until end of turn. This is a crazy funny combat trick in Draft and Sealed. You probably won't see it anywhere outside of that, though, because it is kind of awkward and kind of random for a standard. There is that dragon, that lets combat be assigned via people's or creatures' toughness, so that is something to keep in mind for this card. Could be a cool, fun brew for standard. But for Draft and Sealed, I think this will find a nice home for a combat trick in white. Next up here for us, though, moving on, we have a Dwarf. This is Aether-Shared Artificer. This is a 4-mana 3/3 Dwarf Artificer. Very nice. At the beginning of combat on your turn, target artifact creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains indestructible until end of turn. So this is basically Toolcraft Exemplar, but on a 4/4 and gives it to something else. So very interesting. I really like this. I think there might be a fun dwarf deck at the end of this standard format before rotation happens for Kaladesh. So the last time you can have like a fun dwarf tribal deck in standard that's kind of in white here, I think the Artificer is a fun card to kind of show that off. As far as this card being a good card in Draft and Sealed, it really depends on what you get into as far as like your draft. If you get into a lot of artifact creatures, this could be a good card, but there really aren't that many artifact creatures, honestly, when you look at the actual list here. So I think Artificer's okay, not fantastic. Might have some weird like kind of synergy play in like a brawl deck or a commander deck, but for now it's just kind of like decent, kind of a mid to low pick for me, unless I get into a lot of artifacts in the Draft and Sealed pool. Next up here for us, we have Ajani, Adversary of Tyrants. Love the art on this card. We got Ajani back in standard for us, a 4-mana 4 loyalty, +1, put a +1/+1 counter on each of up to 2 target creatures, so very good. -2, return target creature card with converted mana cost 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And -7, you get an emblem with, at the beginning of your end step, create 3 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink. Really love the emblem here, really love the -2 for sure. +1 isn't kind of like interesting, not that interesting to me. I really don't think this card is like, as far as the +1, that like impactful in the board state. It feels more like a green ability than a white ability. But I do like the -2 here for sure. I think it's very good, especially in a Knight deck or a Warrior deck or even a Cat deck going forward. -7 though, very, very nice. If you get into this in your Draft and Sealed pool, I mean, it's okay, not amazing, because again, it doesn't like pump your board state too much, like too powerfully. It doesn't really protect itself unless you have something in the graveyard already. And if it does, but if it does get off its emblem, it does have the -7 here, which is actually not too bad. So I think it's probably going to be a cool synergistic card. I definitely want to see this kind of in action before I want to give it like a final verdict. But it can be a good bomb in your Draft and Sealed pool. As far as standard goes, it's a little slow. I'm not too excited to see this in standard decks just yet, but I do think it has some potential to go forward though. Moving up here, we have Ajani's Last Stand, a 4-mana enchantment. Whenever a creature or planeswalker you control dies, you may sacrifice Ajani's Last Stand. If you do, create a 4/4 white avatar creature token with flying. When a spell or ability that an opponent controls causes you to discard this card, if you control a planes, create a 4/4 white avatar creature token with flying. This is a super interesting card because it does mean if you have a planeswalker on the battlefield and it does die, you can sack this, make a 4/4, which is nice. Or if you discard this card from your hand, you get a 4/4 out of it as well. So if this is the only card in your hand and your opponent duresses you, they have to discard it. That's super fun and kind of weird, like a weird interaction to me. I do like the card a lot though. I love the art here. I think it's a fun card as far as the art goes. As far as Draft and Sealed though, just too specific of an ability playset here to like it in Draft and Sealed. Gonna be kind of one of those rares you just kind of pass up really quickly in Draft and Sealed. But maybe there's a weird brew for standard somewhere that I'm not really that familiar with just yet. This feels more like a brawl or commander style card instead of a straightforward like standard card. Next up here for us, we have Ajani's Pridemate. Finally, Ajani's Pridemate is back in standard. Such a good card here for us. A 2-mana 2/2. Whenever you gain life, you may put a +1/+1 counter on Ajani's Pridemate. This card is crazy powerful and gets out of hand really fast if you have a lot of stuff that gains you life in your board or in your deck in Draft and Sealed. I think this is a really high pickable card, especially in Draft and Sealed if you have a lot of lifelink or creatures. Getting into black-white lifelink in Draft and Sealed is crazy powerful sometimes, and Ajani's Primate is usually at the top of the curve when it comes to that deck list. Like this card a ton in Draft and Sealed. Probably will see some play in Standard during a like lifelink deck or a Crested Sunmare style deck, or even just a cat deck. Primate is a very good card to have in those kind of decks for sure. It's whenever you gain life, so that's like multiple gaining life things. That's multiple triggers, so I think that's a really interesting card for us to have in a deck list. I think it's super fun. Let's move on here. This card is amazing. Ajani's Welcome, a 1 mana enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain 1 life. So we just talked about the Primate here. Getting into the Welcome here, super good synergy. So there's probably a draft deck or a Seal deck to be made with this. There's probably a Standard deck to be made with this. Again, Primate and Ajani's Welcome, super good cards. Kind of like Soul Sisters, really, in Modern. Really like this card a ton, and I think it's going to see a lot of play and a lot of brews moving forward. Next up here for us, we have Angel of the Dawn. Love the art of this card. Kind of giving me like some Marvel comic feel. I think it's just the color palette here, but it's a 5 mana 3/3 flyer. When it enters the battlefield, creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain vigilance until end of turn. So this is a common 5 mana 3/3 flyer. That's already pretty good in Draft and Sealed, but it has a secondary ability which makes it pushed even further. So I think this card is very good as a top-end bomb for you in Draft and Sealed. 3/3 flyer for 5 isn't terrible, and being able to do an Anthem effect and give vigilance is super good. So I think this card is gonna be a high pick for you in Draft and Sealed as a good top ender for white. As far as Standard though, it's too expensive and won't be seeing any kind of play. Maybe in like a weird Tribal Angel deck or something. Moving on here, we have Cavalry Drill Master. The art on this card feels like it's out of place after the other card we just saw. A 2 mana 2/1. When it enters the battlefield, target creature gets +2/+0 and gains first strike until end of turn. This is a very, very good card on tempo if you're in tempo on Draft and Sealed. Not going to see any kind of Standard play, but on tempo, this card is super powerful in the Draft and Sealed format, but that's about it. Maybe a Knight deck or a Warrior deck of some sort, or a Human deck of some sort maybe in the future, but I do think this card is super good on tempo and Draft and Sealed. If you're ahead, this card's amazing. If you're behind, this card is kind of nothing. So it's just one of those cards where it's really good in a tempo deck. Moving on here, we have Cleansing Nova, a 5 mana sorcery. Choose 1, destroy all creatures. That's not bad, but it is kind of like 1 mana more expensive. Or choose destroy all artifacts and enchantments. That's interesting. I think this card is kind of like a sideboardable card in the particular format right now, especially against white-black knights. As far as other formats or other deck archetypes, mono red aggro is also a good card, good against this, or bad against this card as well. So I think it's very good against mono red aggro. But it is, again, 5 mana to do those things. So I wish it was both of those things for 5 mana. Splitting this up is a little annoying. Regardless, art is very nice. I think it's a good board wipe, especially as a good bomb in Draft and Sealed. Moving right on up to our number 10 here is Daybreak Chaplain. I think that's how you pronounce it, Chaplain or Chaplain? I don't know. It's a 2 mana 1/3 with lifelink. This card's okay, it's not terrible. It does have 3 toughness, so it can block quite a bit. It can get off that Pridemate lifelink, so if you get into a lot of Ajani's Pridemates, you might want to start pulling into the Daybreak Chaplain here as your common. Quite a good card at the 2-drop here. Very good for Draft and Sealed, not that useful for Standard at all. Moving up here, we have Dwarven Priest. This is a card we saw early on in the core set previews. A 4 mana 2/4. When it enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life for each creature you control. Again, very good with the Pridemate, very good with life linking themes. Another dwarf for us to use in Standard Tribal if we want to. Not that powerful as far as what it does. It can kind of like get you back into the game if you have a lot of creatures on the battlefield. So that's kind of what this card wants you to do, is like, you know, flood the board state with creatures and then play this and gain 5 or 6 life. But at the end of the day, you're probably on average gaining maybe like 2 to 3 life instead of 5 to 6 or something like that. So it's interesting. I like that it has 4 toughness, but not a lot of power for 4 mana. So it might be a card I'll probably be passing around quite a bit unless I get into a Pridemate. Next up here, we have Gallant Cavalry. Sorry, not Cavalry. Cavalry. There we go. It's a 4 mana 2/2 Vigilance. When it enters the battlefield, you create a 2/2 white knight creature token with Vigilance. This is not bad at all. There was a card similar to this in Dominaria. Not the exact same card, but very similar in how they actually functions. It's a 2/2 that creates another 2/2. They both have Vigilance. So 4 mana for 2 creatures with 2/2s with Vigilance. That's not bad. I think this is going to be a nice pick for you to kind of round out your deck list if you're in white in Draft and Sealed. But you're not going to see this at all in Standard. Unless it's maybe in like a weird like token copier deck, something like that. Moving on here, we have a Herald of Faith. This is a 5 mana 4/3 flyer. Whenever it attacks, you gain 2 life life. Again, the life gain kind of theme here in white. Oop, I just hit the mic. The life gain theme here in white is super good. Like the art on this as well. It's a 5-mana 4/3 flyer. That's super powerful as well. If you saw earlier, I thought that a 5-mana 3/3 flyer was good. A 4/3 flyer is even better, and it gains you life when it attacks. Just sign me up. I think this card is fantastic for draft and sealed, but not that great in standard, of course. Moving up here, we have Hieromancer's Cage. This is a 4-mana enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent opponent controls until this card leaves the battlefield. So a 4-mana Oblivion Ring, you know, it's okay. It's at uncommon, so you're going to see it quite a bit in your draft and sealed pool. Very good removal for whites. There's always kind of some kind of card like this for whites in the actual draft pool. And to have this here over Cast Out, which will be cycling out once the Ravnica set comes out, I think is fine. It doesn't have Flash, which is kind of a bad part about this card not replacing Cast Out. But, you know, in draft and sealed, this card will be fine. In standard, it probably won't get used at all. Next up here for us, we have Inspired Charge. Love the art on this. Always love a Wayne Reynolds art here whenever I see it. A 4-mana instant. Creatures you control get +2/+1 until end of turn. This is a good card if you're ahead, a terrible card if you're behind. It can be a card you can use when you're behind, since it is an instant, but it's a much better card when you're ahead. Very good at being able to close out a match if you have a lot of white weenie creatures, a lot of white small creatures to kind of attack in with. This is a card you might be picking out at your 15th or 16th pick in your pack. You might see it go a little bit earlier depending on how the actual archetype evolves over time, but right now I think this card is a kind of a low pick, low to mid pick for sure. Moving on here, we have Invoke the Divine. It's coming back from Amonkhet here. I think it's Amonkhet, right? A 3-mana instant. Destroy target artifact or enchantment. You gain 4 life. Interesting. Very good for us. For some reason, I thought it was exile for a long time, but it's not. It's destroy. There's another card that exiles artifacts or enchantments. Very, very good right now, especially in the mono red like meta. You want to make sure you have this in your sideboard. So very good card for standard. Very good card for draft and sealed. If there is a lot of artifact and enchantments to deal with against your opponent, so a good card to put in your sideboard and bring in game 2. Next up here for us, we have Isolate, a 1-mana instant. It's a rare here. Exile target permanent with converted mana cost 1. This is like a Death Shadow hate card. This is such a weird card. It feels like it's a card that's meant exclusively for like modern and not really for anything in standard at the moment. There's definitely some powerful stuff for 1 mana, but I'm not really sure exactly where this kind of fits in standard at the moment. It is exile target permanent, so that is, you know, something to like kind of think about and look into. But for right now, I think Isolate is just okay to be used in modern, probably like never used in standard, and probably won't get used at all in draft or sealed either. It might be an actual rare you might just pass up because of how restrictive and how like specific it is. Moving on here, we have Knight of the Tusk. Love this art and love the actual flavor text here. Horse? Who needs a horse? That's right. I would travel in an elephant if I could. A 6-mana 3/7 with vigilance. This card is okay. Having a big butt like that means it can get through a lot of stuff. It can be attacking out every single turn, or just get double blocked and die. So I don't really know how else that would work besides this, unless it has like something on top of it, like an enchantment or a instant or a equipment, something like that. It's fine. It's not great. It is a common, so it's something you probably will pass up quite often. But you know, having a 3/7 in your deck isn't terrible, thanks to that toughness there. It's just that it's really annoying because it is a 6 mana. Moving up here for us, though, we have Knight's Pledge. This is a 2-mana instant or enchantment aura. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2. This is a great card. This is very simple, very straightforward. I wish it gave vigilance or something like that, since it says Knight's Pledge. Vigilance or First Strike would have been amazing. But this is a nice pickable card for you if you're in white in draft and sealed. Not going to be used in standard at all, but in draft and sealed, this card is a-okay. I would definitely pick it if you're in a very aggressive strategy in that format. Moving up here for us, we have Knightly Valor. Fantastic card in draft and sealed. A 5-mana enchantment aura. Enchant creature. When enchant creature enters the battlefield, or when the Knight Valor enters the battlefield, sorry, create a 2/2 white knight creature token with vigilance, and the enchanted creature gets +2/+2 and vigilance. So pumps your creature and creates a token, and that creature also has vigilance. So very, very good. I think this card is super good on curve. I think this card is always going to be useful in draft and sealed some way or another. I really like pulling into this if I am in white for draft and sealed. Moving up here for us, we have Lena Selfless Champion. This is a 6-mana 3/3. 6-mana 3/3 is not really usually that great, but let's look at the ability here. When it enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token for each non-token creature you control, so it can like technically double your board state. So I really like that ability. Sacrifice Lena. Creatures you control with power less than Lena's power gain indestructible until end of turn. So this is a card that gives you quite a bit of like leverage when you're in a like mono white weenie deck or a small attackers deck in draft and sealed, especially in standard right now. There's a lot going on where you're trying to attack out, get as much damage in as you possibly can, and their creatures are bigger than yours. If Lena is attacking in, you can just sack it and make your entire board state indestructible. I think that's super impactful. I think that's super powerful. This might see some play in a Knight deck, especially in Standard. I feel like in Draft and Sealed, if you get this as your bomb rare, you might want to hold on to it and see if you can kind of build around a Knight deck. But you never want to really build around a deck or build around a specific card in Draft and Sealed. You want to kind of make sure that if you pick this, it's going to be a good card for you regardless. I think it's okay. It does make, a 3/3 and then a 1/1 because it is like itself too. So that's fine. So it does make 2 creatures for 6 mana, which is not terrible. But again, it's just 4 power. So it is one of those cards like I feel like it's probably better in Standard applications. But, you never know. It could be a good card in Draft and Sealed as well if the board state is gummed up with a lot of creatures. Moving on here, we have Leonin Vanguard, a 1 white mana 1/1 cat soldier. At the beginning of combat on your turn, if you control 3 or more creatures, the Vanguard gets +1/+1 until end of turn, and you gain 1 life. So if this said +1/+1 counter, I would be in love with this card. It's uncommon, so it doesn't say that. But I do think this is a fantastic 1-drop for you in Draft and Sealed. This might be a good card to put into Cat Tribal as well in Standard. So look out for this card. I think it's going to be kind of impactful. Again, if you have 3 more creatures, it actually gains you 1 life, so the Ajani Primate could be getting larger with this card if you have on the battlefield as well. So again, Cat Tribal in Standard, probably going to be a thing once again. It's always been a thing for like the past year, but it's going to be even more of a thing now. Moving on here, we have Leonin War Leader. This is a little bit better of a card for me. This is a 4 mana 4/4 cat soldier. Whenever it attacks, create 2 1/1 white cat creature tokens with lifelink that are tapped and attacking. So this card can basically run the table. If this is your rare in Draft and Sealed, I would snap pick it like a crazy person because it's such a good card. If they don't have removal for it, it's just going to run the table. If they don't double block it, it's just going to flood the table and they can't deal with it. I think one of the best points of this card is it actually makes lifelinkers as well, so that's very, very good again for Ajani's Pridemate. Just a lot of good stuff here for the Pridemate, and War Leader here is a great cat as well. So Cat Tribal and Standard is going to be great. This card is a great card in Draft and Sealed. Just a huge bomb at the 4 mana slot. Moving on here, we have Lockdown Linebreaker. This is a 3 mana 3/2, just a vanilla creature. Not terrible, not great. You're going to see it probably used, kind of fill out slots. 3/2s are always okay. I'm happy that it's not a 3/1. I wish it was probably maybe a 2/3 or maybe a 3, just a 3/3 for 3. That's probably better too. Vanilla 3/3 for 3, I will take all day long. 3/2 is kind of at the bottom of my slot if I need it for white. Pull it in Draft and Sealed, never use it in Standard. Next up here, we have Luminous Bonds. We just saw this in Rivals, I believe, or Ixalan. 3 mana enchantment aura. Enchanted creature can't attack or block, so super good, super useful. Good lockdown spell in white. Good for Draft and Sealed. Never going to see it in Standard or any other format. Moving on here, we have Make a Stand. This is a 3 mana instant. Creatures you control get +1/+0 and gain indestructible until end of turn. Another good card, just like the other board-wide pump here. Very good card in Draft and Sealed if you're attacking out with everything to kind of end up a match, or you can use it to make sure your creatures are indestructible for the turn, make them more powerful, and make them kind of trade on blocks. So very good card overall. I think it's going to be kind of a low to mid pick though, depending on how kind of aggressive your deck is for the actual format. Not going to see it in Standard though at all. Moving on here, we have Mentor of the Meek. Oh, it's back, Mentor of the Meek. This was last printed in one of the Innistrad sets, I can't remember which one. A 3 mana 2/2 creature human soldier. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you may pay 1 colorless. If you do, draw a card. This card is always kind of like interesting in the format, especially in Draft and Sealed. If you get into a lot of like white weenie stuff in Draft and Sealed, this card draws you cards forever. If you have the mana to do so, of course. And in Standard, this card might be okay. It really depends on how this format evolves. I do think there's a soldier or a human deck out there that really would love this deck, or they love this card in the format. So I think this card is going to be super fun for you to play in Standard, and I think this card is kind of okay in Draft and Sealed, depending on what you get into. As far as if it's your opening pack card, you might want to pass on it. But if it's something you kind of like a lot and you think you can get into it more, as it being like white seems like more of a powerful color in Draft, then definitely pick up Mentor of the Meek. Moving on from here, we have a Mighty Leap. This is a card from Mom and Cat here. A 2 mana instant. Target creature gets +2/+2 and gains flying until end of turn. Super good card. Great card to end up into match. Good combat trick. I think I would take it most of the time if I'm going to be going into a very aggressive ground-based strategy and I need something to block a flyer or to just get over some other ground-based strategies. Mighty Leap is fine for that. Good card, good art, and yeah, just an overall good pick for Draft and Sealed. Not going to see it in Standard whatsoever. Moving on, we have Militia Bugler. I love the art on this one. This is a 3 mana 2/3 human soldier with vigilance, so that's pretty decent already. When it enters a battlefield, you may look at the top 4 cards of your library. You may reveal a creature card with power 2 or less from among among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So again, just like Mentor the Mink, if you get into a lot of these creatures in Draft and Seal, it really does like pay off in the end. I think a standard, there's a human soldier deck or a human deck out there that really would use this card as a white weenie, kind of like lord, not really a lord, but like a tutor to grab cards out of your deck. I like this card a lot. I think it's very, very impactful for your board state. Yeah, super good for standard, super good for Draft and Sealed, especially being a 2/3 with Vigilance for 3. Moving up here, we have Novice Knight, a 1 mana creature with Defender. It's a 2/3, and as long as Novice Knight is enchanted or equipped, it can attack as though it didn't have Defender. This card is super interesting. I really like this card a lot for Draft and Sealed if there is a lot of enchantments or artifacts in your deck. Super good for that. As far as it being in standard though, very interesting card, very powerful if you have the right enchantments. Maybe in a blue-white Aurus list, because this could be a card that could like work really well in something like that. Not really sure about this being in a Knight list by itself. There's some Knight lists where they don't really have that many enchantments or auras at all, so I think this card is probably better suited in a Boros list or a like blue-white list with like you know, Curious Obsession, that kind of thing. But we'll see what happens for sure. I do like this card for both Draft, Sealed, and even standard at times. Let's move on here for the Swiftclaw here. This is a 2-mana 3/1. Raptor Companion, you're back. You just have different art. This is fine. It's gonna be one of those like last pickable cards. Not that great, but it can trade up every now and then. But it can just die immediately to literally anything. So it's okay, not great, but not terrible. So pick it at your own risk. If you need like one more slot to fill out a creature for Draft and Sealed, never gonna see play in standard though. Moving on here, we have Pegasus Courser. This is from Dominaria here, a 3-mana 1/3 flyer. When it attacks another target, attacking creature gains flying into end of turn. Probably one of the best attackers in white for like this particular set, and even Dominaria's drafts for an environment. Very good at being able to like make another creature fly and just get over opponent's creatures, being able to kind of do more damage to them and close out the match more quickly. I like this card a lot because it does have 3 toughness as well, being able to block quite a bit of damage as well. So good card for Draft and Sealed, not good for standard, of course. Moving on here, we have Remorseful Cleric, a 2-mana 2/1 flyer. Sacrifice Remorseful Cleric, exile all cards from target player's graveyard. Interesting card. Not really going to see any kind of play, I feel like, in like the Draft and Sealed format, but maybe in standard we'll see like a weird spirit deck kind of come to fruition. I think this card is interesting for that format. I think there's probably enough spirits in the standard format to make this work, but for Draft and Sealed, not going to work at all. Moving on here, we have Resplendent Angel, a 3-mana 3/3 flyer. Already super good. It is a mythic though, so you probably won't see that often in Draft and Sealed. At the beginning of each instep, if you gain 5 or more life this turn, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. That's super good. You can actually pay 6 here until end of turn. Resplendent Angel gets +2/+2 and gains lifelink. So it turns into a 5/5 flying lifelinker if you have the mana to do so. So if this is your bomb in Draft and Sealed, congratulations, you're definitely in white. If you want to build around a deck like that. If you get this into standard, I think this card is probably a good deck, or a good card to be built around for a lifelink deck, just like with the Ajani Pridemate and other things we've seen in this set so far. I do think the Angel is a super good card for that particular format. It might actually make a deck see play like an Angel deck in standard, like an Angel tribal deck, because it is a 3-mana Angel, which is very rare. Usually Angels are 4 mana or more. So Resplendent Angel, very, very good card overall. Great in all formats. It's going to see play in. Yeah, can't wait to see this play, especially because it's not a legendary, it's just a regular creature, so you can play multiples back to back, which is awesome. Moving on here, we have Revitalize, a 2-mana instant. You gain 3 life and then you draw a card. So okay, it's not that bad, not that terrible. I think this card is going to be probably used as a last pick, like the last pick in a deck if you want to gain life and draw a card for Draft and Seal. I'm not going to see any kind of play in standard, but it is a good way to kind of replace itself and gain some life, especially to last a little bit longer in a match. For 2 mana, that's all right. It's not like terrible, like it's not unplayable, but it is not amazing either. Basically cycling, gaining 3 life, so that's how that's kind of works too. Moving on here, we have Rustwing Falcon. It's a 1 white mana 1/2 flyer. This card is fine. I'll take it all day long in Draft and Sealed. Not going to see play in standard, but in Draft and Sealed, a 1 mana 1/2 flyer. Sure, I'll take that all day. Next up here, we have a Shield Mare, a 3 mana 2/3 horse. It can't be blocked by red creatures, which is a very big deal, especially in the format right now in standard, but in Draft and Sealed, we might see it kind of make a little bit more noise there. When it enters the battlefield or becomes a target of a spell or ability an opponent controls, you gain 3 life. Very interesting. You gain 3 life immediately, so this is probably going to be a good card in a Crested Sunmare deck for sure. Horse Tribal, you know, kind of crazy there. I think this card is super fun. Going to see lots of play in Brews in that kind of particular list in Standard, and a nice pick for us in Draft and Sealed, although the double white there is kind of hard to deal with for sure. Moving on here, we have Star Crowned Stag, a 4-mana 3/3. Whenever Star Crowned Stag attacks, tapped target creature defending player controls. Okay, it's fine. It's a little more expensive than I wanted. It's kind of like Territorial Hammerhead, which is fine, but it is more expensive to play out. So I think it's probably going to be fine though, because it is a 4-mana 3/3, so it can trade up a little bit better. But yeah, a little bit slower on the play. Still a very good pick for you though at the common slot in Draft and Sealed. Moving up here, we have Sun Cleanser. This is the energy like answer we needed, you know, a year ago. A 2-mana 1/4. When it enters the battlefield, choose 1. Remove all counters from target creature. It can't have counters put on it for as long as Sun Cleanser remains on the battlefield, and then target opponent loses all counters. That player can't get counters for as long as Sun Cleanser remains on the battlefield. So again, very good at shutting down energy and other things like that, but not that useful in Draft and Sealed. It feels like maybe to shut down a Pride Mate, something like that. But not that useful either in Standard, because the energy decks have been kind of banned to oblivion. So Sun Cleanser is just one of those cards that's like, I mean, it's cool, but it's kind of you know, several months too late. Let's move on here. Take Vengeance with 2-mana sorcery, destroy target tap creature. This is fine. I'll take it all day long in Draft and Sealed. Very, very good card. Very good removal for Draft and Sealed. Not going to see any kind of Standard play, but very good card regardless. Moving up here, we have Trusty Pack Beast, a 3-mana 2/3. When it enters a battlefield, return target artifact card from your graveyard to your hand. So this is fine. A 3-mana 2/3 is okay. And if you have a lot of artifacts in your list in Draft and Sealed, this card is okay as well. Especially because, you know, there's not that much removal, or, you know, repeated removal in Draft and Sealed decks. There's always like 1 or 2 pieces, and that's basically it. If they destroy your artifact, you know, you might be able to get it back with the Pack Beast here and have a 2/3 body as well, and that's perfectly fine. And the last card in white here is Valiant Knight. This is a rare 4-mana 3/4. Other knights you control get +1/+1, so that's very nice for us. And pay 5, knights you control gain double strike until end of turn, and that is ridiculous for us. Very good card. You're going to see a lot of play in Draft and Sealed, and it's definitely going to be a build-around deck for knights in Standard for sure. Definitely going to try and build around that myself as well. Love this card, love the ability on it, and love that it gives double strike instead of first strike, because double strike is just insanity. Can basically just end up making an opponent scoop if we have enough knights on the battlefield. But that's going to do it for white here, folks. Let me know what you think. Do you like the whites? Do you hate it? Let me know in the comments down below. Like if you like it. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I'm going to have all of the set review colors coming out as quickly as possible. Going to try and get gold and artifacts and all that kind of stuff too this time. So please look forward to those. And yeah, just hope you enjoyed Core Set 2019. I think it's shaping up to be really nice. Really nice. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.